So here's the wild thing. I have seen hosts spend $7,000 to launch their Airbnb, and within just a short while, they're fully booked. And on the other hand, I've seen hosts spend $25,000 and they still have openings on their calendar. And this is in the same city. This is on the same platform, which is Airbnb, but the results are completely different. And the difference, it's not the money. It actually is where the money actually goes. So if you're trying to figure out, well, how much does it actually cost to start an Airbnb? Well, this is the breakdown that I wished I had when we were starting an Airbnb almost a decade ago. And by the way, I'm Seth. I'm one of the co-founders of the Innkeepers Collective. We've hosted thousands of guests across multiple cities, and we generate about $1 million in revenue on Airbnb each year. And what I'm sharing in this video isn't actually theory. These are real numbers. These are things that we have tested in almost a decade of running Airbnbs. So instead of asking, well, how much does it cost? You really should be asking, what am I actually paying for? Because every dollar you spend in setting up your Airbnb goes into one of these 5 buckets. And one bad bucket is all it takes to sink your profits. So I am breaking it all down, y'all, in today's video. So let's go through them one by one. And so this first bucket is setup and repairs. And even if your place already looked move-in ready, you're still gonna face some hidden setup costs, such as painting, locks, getting the place deep cleaned, buying kitchenware, some of the safety gear. There's still some costs that you'll need even if your place already looks great. And so to set up like a 1-bedroom property, expect to pay somewhere between $1,500 and $4,000. But irrespective of the size of your property, here is the rule that I want you to follow. I want you to focus on spending where it builds reliability and then skip all the things that guests never notice anyway. So one of our properties is actually a duplex, and y'all, it looked pretty good when we launched it, but after just a few weeks in, we had a hot water heater go out. And that one $600 fix and 2 cancellations resulted from it taught us a really important lesson, and that is like cheap shortcuts will cost you much more money in the long run. So a lot of us will make this mistake. We get our Airbnb and we're immediately going out to buy furniture. But while some are out shopping for furniture, the real winners are fixing the things that make their properties reliable. And it is reliability that leads to those 5-star reviews. And the second bucket is a host favorite, and that is furniture and design. But this is where the emotion actually meets economics. And the goal isn't to make your space look fancy, but it actually is to make it feel intentional. And budget setups, depending on the size of your property, can start around $3,000 to $5,000, but a mid-range number is between $6,000 and $10,000 with a premium setup. Premium setup, luxury properties may cost a little bit more than $15,000 plus. But y'all, the thing that I want you to remember is the psychology of it. And guests don't book nice properties, they book properties that they actually trust. And I can tell you that trust comes from comfort. So in one of our properties, we replaced a giant sectional. It was a sectional that we had from a previous property with 2 smaller couches and a side table. And suddenly the reviews shifted overnight. Like folks started saying things like, it felt like home. We loved the layout. It was super cozy. It's the same level of seating, but completely different response. And psychologists refer to this as the affect heuristic. And what it simply means is that people decide emotionally first and then justify logically afterward. And so a warm, balanced space will actually release a pretty significant dopamine hit, and that feeling converts into booking. And one way to address this in your property is just make a small change, like make a quick upgrade to your lighting before anything else. So choose a light that is warm and layered, and that will instantly photograph much better and help your guests feel much more relaxed in your property. It is one of the cheapest fixes that you can make that gives you an immediate reward. And by the way, if you want to make sure that you're not missing any of the details that actually drive bookings, I've built the Airbnb Setup Checklist, and you can download it below. So it walks you through every step that you'll need, and it helps you to ignore all the things that you don't need because they don't impact your reviews and your revenue. And you can go and grab it down below. It is the one that we use at all 12 of our properties and when we're helping other setup properties as well. And so you can grab it down below. Now let's go to bucket 3, which is tech and automation. And this is where the smart hosts are going to buy back their time and don't let the Airbnb run their lives. Now, I'm going to tell you, don't go overboard with this, but by automating early, you're going to save hours and hours each and every week. And here are a few things to consider. You want to consider smart locks, smart thermostats, noise sensors, auto messaging. And for strong, reliable items with great reviews, you can get these from as low as $300 to $1,200. And these things will actually help you run your Airbnb much more efficiently. And we've learned the hard way, like one late night message can actually cause us to lose a 5-star review on a property. And now basically we use automation to handle all of this. And so we've invested in a guest messaging system. And that small investment means that we're going to have less late night text message, better reviews, and actually more freedom. And if you haven't done this yet, you will want to install a keypad lock. And this one change makes your check-in much more stress-free, and it will instantly make you look and feel a lot more professional. And a really good smart lock can range from as low as like $100 to roughly around $350. You can find a really solid, reliable smart lock that'll do the job of getting your guests and your cleaners in to get your property reset and ready for the next booking. And if you're finding this information helpful, I want to invite you to hit the like button. And if you want to make sure that you're not missing any of this content each week, I want to invite you to hit subscribe. Y'all, we are building out this community and I want you to be a part of it. Go and hit subscribe. And the fourth bucket is permits, insurance, and fees. And this may be kind of like the least glamorous part of our business, but it's one that actually protects your business. And permits and insurance are going to vary city by city. But in a city like Atlanta, for example, you can expect to pay $5,000 to $12,000 a year for insurance. Plus, you may be required to cover an additional fee for your short-term rental permit. And these are all fees that are tax deductible if you have an LLC set up at the very start of launching your first Airbnb. And I know y'all, sometimes this can be challenging, but as you get your property up and running and you start making revenue, I want to just encourage you to put a little bit aside for some of those unexpected expenses that will come up. This little cushion will save you a tremendous amount of headache. And we learned this the hard way at the outset of the COVID pandemic when guests actually stopped booking. And because we had reserves saved up, we didn't actually panic. We were able to kind of make it through without any challenges. And this is a lesson, y'all, that we had to learn in the early days of running our business. So I want to encourage you that as you start to earn some revenue and those bookings start to flow in, put a little bit aside for that rainy day. It's going to save you a lot of headache in the long run. And this fifth bucket is actually marketing and launch. And y'all, this one is critically important, but it's often overlooked. And this is actually what separates hosts who list their property and those who launch their property. What I want you to remember is your first 10 reviews will decide your next 100 bookings. And what that means is your photos, your listing description, your first week pricing are more important than anything else. And to cover these, you want to set aside $300 to $800 to launch your property with confidence. And this will cover pro photos, y'all. I do not want y'all going out there taking photos with your phone. Get a professional to come in and take those photos. This will also cover a small gift for your guests and then a small introductory offer to help you build momentum with your listing. And if you want to really start out by giving yourself a boost, I will encourage you to add a handwritten welcome card for your first 5 guests. It only costs a few dollars, but that one gesture, your guests will remember it. And again, those first reviews will determine your immediate success in the first few months on Airbnb. So here's what it really costs to start an Airbnb in 2025. So for your budget option, that is between $6,000 and $9,000. For the mid-level option, you want to put aside $10,000 to $15,000. And for premium, much more luxury or much larger properties, you want to think about the $20,000 to $30,000 range. And remember, it is actually not about how much you spend, it's about where you spend that money. So now you know what it really costs to start an Airbnb in 2025 and exactly where to spend to ensure that every dollar works as hard as possible to help you launch that property. But here's the truth, even when you get the numbers right, most hosts will still end up losing money. Why? Because there is one one setup mistake that quietly kills your bookings and drain your profits. And that often goes completely unnoticed until it's much too late. And if you're about to launch, or even if you're already live on Airbnb, you cannot afford to miss this. So click right here to watch this next video on the Airbnb setup mistakes that cost you bookings. And it's the one thing that separates hosts who stay booked and those who quietly disappear or drift down to page 6 or 7 on the Airbnb platform. So click here to watch this next video, because when you pair what you've learned in this video with that one, you're going to be ahead of 90% of the other hosts in your market.